We're looking at you.
You had to approve the agenda. What do you want me to do? I can't approve it.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Sorry, I thought you knew that part. Then I have public comment, no public comment unless they have something to say. Good? Okay. And then board minutes, if someone wants to approve those.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Next is the financial reports. You guys have a separate insert because whatever I put together glitched out and you couldn't see a lot of the numbers, which are the important parts. So,
Yeah,
it's just
I
a,
saw
Yeah, you were missing.
I typed it and then I sent it to Chris and it was not there, so.
Nope, it was not.
Yes. So if there's any questions, this is not,
Did we ever get an answer on where we were with that Fund 46, that current one?
the not current one. I don't have any further information on that. I think it's with the lawyer. That's what I've got.
Fund 46 in regards to the housing,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
your question is
I had asked last time where we were at in the process of.
revamping anything?
Well, we have one that's not current.
Mm.
Oh, and you said that we have to take that to court.
Yeah.
And I'll add that to our list, right, Phyllis?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay, will do.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Alright. Next one I have is the recommendation for the approval of the tax abatement policy. I brought that to you when I first started in early September. I have here a summary of what the policy is, some of the key things that are in there. The timeline has a max of 60 days for complete applications. The EDA board can delay it as needed if there's an application that doesn't have enough information in it. There is a fee of $5,000 that is required whether or not it's approved in this draft that I've written. That's recommended because there's a lot of fees associated with getting financial consultants involved. In a lot of cases, that $5,000 might not cover what their abatement is, and so that could be something you guys don't want to include. So I'm looking for your thoughts on that. I don't have an explicit limit either on the abatement amount, but I wrote in here if we're looking for a full abatement, they would need a very clear reason for that, because that means we're not getting any of their taxes. So, any thoughts on those things first before I go to the next piece?
So, in normal circumstances, if somebody's fulfilling a abatement application, are they gonna be required to pay all the fees associated with that application? Or are we saying just the $5,000?
$5,000 generally covers that, so it's an escrow, you ask for it up front, and in the language it says we will give them back whatever is not, or we will charge them more if it costs more. So basically we're saying that the city will not pay any additional on top of you getting the abatement.
But $5,000 is basically gonna be held in escrow at the time of application to cover all expenses.
Associated with
But it could
processing.
be more than that.
Yep, but generally I got that number from Northland Securities of what they're
Okay.
typically about.
I make a motion we approve it.
I have one other thing before you do that. The other thing is that I wrote this mainly aimed at commercial abatements. Some cities have residential tax abatements. That could be a rehabilitation incentive, things like that for you guys. I just want your input. Do you want me to look into doing a separate residential tax abatement? I would think $5,000 is too much money for an individual to do. And so,
I would think we should.
Yeah.
Have a separate one for residential.
and like, is that something you want me to go forward with looking into? We don't have to
We
have
can
one.
get to that point at some time.
But just, you don't wanna worry about it right now.
I would say no.
Okay.
Well, and some of the other things is too, I don't know that we're gonna be pushing abatement in a lot of situations.
Absolutely.
It's probably gonna be more of a,
Yep.
yeah, or a, you know, depending on the situation, I'd much rather look at other opportunities or other programs. Abatement, I think, would be last resort. I don't know if there's gonna be an instance where we're gonna wanna
Yeah, you might be right about that.
Not that we're gonna wanna necessarily entertain abatement for, unless it's, you know, a nuisance property or something like that, that somebody's taking on, you know, without any other incentive other than, I guess I don't know where it would make sense.
Mhm.
I mean, I could see it in town that had historical buildings or something where you're looking at, maybe somebody's taking on, you know, you think of New Ulm, Wannagag House or something like that, where it's this historically significant house that's gonna be privately owned. And then they're gonna look for maybe tax abatement to do a full rebuild or a full restoration. But right now in our town, I don't know if there'd be a situation where I would think tax abatement would make sense.
Mhm.
Not if you can do other
Yeah,
things
there's other, I mean,
first.
there's definitely other policies or other opportunities. The EDA could help residents to, you know, I don't wanna discourage rehabilitation of existing residential properties, but I don't know that tax abatement's gonna be a good choice for anything that I can foresee right now. I mean, we can definitely cross that bridge if something comes up too. And it's maybe something we wanna look at, but
Mhm.
The
it would
one,
have to be a pretty unique situation.
and the only tax payment that we currently have, it was a very unique situation, and that's a downtown fire. I mean, that was a huge thing.
But that would be on the commercial side.
Yeah, that'd be on the business side.
That would
Yep.
fall into this policy.
Back to the policy, just so that I can verify, this is like full tax abatement. There is no admin fee or any percentages like the county does in regards to a certain amount.
We did not put in that language in there, no. And that would be also, do you have any, thoughts on that? So I wrote, if they're seeking a full abatement on the annual taxes, they would need a substantiated and compelling justification. Basically, they need a really good reason, but I didn't put in any limits. I didn't wanna box us into a corner for a unique situation, but.
Do we need
And-
specific language saying that, you know, we're gonna be considering lesser abatements?
Well,
Or are we just gonna leave it open-ended enough to where it could be anything from a partial to a full?
that's your guys' choice.
Can you read
I'm-
that? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Can you read that line again?
Requests seeking a full abatement on the annual taxes for a property necessitate a substantiated and compelling justification. It's kind of lawyer language for it, it needs a really good reason.
So, you know, it'd be up to us if we wanna do a lesser amount.
Right.
Mhm.
The reason I asked is because going through the fire abatement and everything, we are full abatement on the fire.
Mhm.
And the county has a policy set in place that there's a certain percentage and a formula in which they do, so there's not a full abatement.
No.
They're still reassuring that there's a base that's still coming in on the tax base for the county. And so what I'm trying to have you guys understand is that if you do full, like we are doing currently on the fire, there is nothing that comes back into the city.
You know, I think any instance in my mind where abatement's gonna be, a situation that we're gonna entertain is probably gonna have to be a kind of a special situation. You know, I could foresee it if, like, for instance, if, Downs Foods North had not been purchased by Downs, and that building was sitting vacant, and there was a company coming in looking to do, you know, something that was gonna generate 100 jobs or something. But I don't know that we have any of those instances right now. That's not saying that they ain't gonna, you know, be those instances in the future, but I just don't foresee it being something that we're gonna try to, you know, try to steer businesses towards an abatement in
But-
any case.
In going into negotiations, as it's stated, it's full abatement. So does that,
As it's stated, it's, if you want a full abatement, you need a really good reason.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
not,
And
yeah.
that's why I asked you to
I
read
got
that
it.
again, because what that does
Yeah.
is, to Andy's point, we can do lesser amounts.
okay,
But I still think that everybody on this, you know, EDA should be under this, you know, hopefully under the impression that there's probably other programs that are gonna be
Oh,
a lot more beneficial. Abatement's gonna be kind of a last resort or worst case scenario, where we can, you know, if it's, and it's gonna have to be a special circumstance. I don't think it's something we're gonna wanna point businesses towards in any, you know, common circumstance.
Well, and the only abatement we have is the fire currently,
But that's set up totally different.
but it was also a very special circumstance.
Right.
Yes, and
Mhm.
very special circumstances.
Oh, yeah.
And we're fine to note that a lot of the state statute
Mhm.
requirements don't somewhat pertain to certain areas.
Right.
Mhm.
But I believe some of that funding was generated by state funds and everything.
Yeah, there was special circumstance for all of that.
Mhm.
So going back to then, commercial versus residential, I'd like to put in that this is for commercial only. Just so that if anybody comes across this policy, they don't say, hey, as a residential person, or if you guys ever, future EDA boards ever say, we wanna do a tax abatement for whatever reason on our residential, we're stuck with this 5,000, we're stuck with this policy.
I would agree with that.
Absolutely.
So then I'd look for a motion from you guys to approve it.
I would make a motion that we add in, it's for business only.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay. Next one is the TIF policy, very similar, I brought it to you guys back in September. The timeline for TIF is a little bit different, because there's a lot of different TIF districts. I don't have a specific timeline in there. I have whatever we can do, but, policy requires a written notification to the applicant if the application review by EDA and public finance advisor is not completed prior to the next EDA meeting with the reason for delay. That just makes sure we keep them in the loop, make sure we don't take more than a month to review things. Application fee. This one, we also talked to Northland Securities. It's about 15,000 generally. Some of them are closer to 10, some of them are closer to 20. I put 15 because it's in the middle. If you guys would like to do a different amount, whatever, but it has the same language as the tax abatement where it says if it's gonna cost more, they'll be charged or they'll be billed. If it costs less, we'll refund them.
That's a great idea.
Alright, I have no other questions on that one, so I'd look for a motion.
I'd, make a motion to approve the TIF financing
I'll second that
policy.
motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Alright, on to new business. I just have, the first thing is just the economic development policy. So our economic development policy is what's known at the state level as a business subsidy policy. It's required for any cities, municipalities who give out business subsidies, so that can be loans, tax abatements, property, other things, 150 or plus, 75 less, like it has to cover those for the state. And so I specifically wanted to look back at it because we had a recent loan that was 160K. I wanted to make sure that our policies cover what we need to do for the state on those. And so all I did in reviewing this is I found, I crossed out where it said individual revolving loan funds, changed that to incentives, because it has to cover all of our incentives, and I fixed some grammar. So all I would want from, and I removed the section on jobs because we do not use jobs anymore.
I'll make a motion to approve that economic development policy.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Alright. Now, Riverview Heights. So there are now 10 lots left in Riverview Heights. They're in sizes from 0.35 acres up to 0.58 acres. And conversations with all of you, we've all talked about marketing that, conversation with Chris, how do we get those lots sold? And so based on the success of working with Liz Gappa on the Watona Park campsite, we wanted to look at doing a marketing proposal with her. And so you can see in my summary what that proposal contains, a 90-second video with aerial photography, a new webpage on the city site about Riverview Heights, some Facebook and Instagram paid advertising, some organic posts on Facebook. We have discussed the Google paid search ads and paid video ads. Chris and I still have some questions with that, and then email marketing as well. And the target audience with all of this is for developers and contractors. Estimated cost is about $5,000, and so because the EDA board does not have a budget, we would need to come to council and request $5,000 to be set aside. So if you have questions about what it is, thoughts.
How many lots do we have out there that are sold that aren't built on yet?
3?
Well, we
Just
have
the 3?
the
Yeah, 2 up front.
2 up front, which, as everybody will find out, that they are purchasing a different home in town. So we have the 2 up front, and then we have Kent Bowers that's actually got a realtor sign on it, and that's the last of the,
Duplex.
duplex lots
Just those 3 then.
that are owned by somebody else that haven't been built on, that's correct.
Okay.
So, the one question I'd have, and maybe this is a question for our attorney, is, was there anything in the purchase agreement of those other 2 lots?
Oh, there wasn't?
That stated that they needed to build within a certain time frame.
Right.
No, because I came back and I asked, and that sale was, I did the closing, I did not do the negotiation, that was in Pat's time. And so when I came back to ask the individual, because COVID went through and we were very gracious with COVID and stuff, and nothing was stated in there that stated that they had to build within a year. Nothing was signed.
For purchase agreements moving forward, for the reduced pricing, are we going to add that to the purchase
I think
agreements?
it's already in there, isn't it?
We are looking at different incentives or
So that'll be the
different ways
next part
that
of
we
it.
can
Oh,
do
okay.
it.
Got it.
Because, and we've already brought that conversation up with Patrick also, in regards to, can you hold it, who's, you know, how can you actually do it? I had an individual come in and say, deeding it,
Yes, so deeding it to the developer, and they don't actually pay until they've sold the lot. Or
until
sold
they
house.
built the house and sold the lot.
But the problem with that is if it's a residential buyer, that's not a developer, that's gonna build it for their own residence, or that's the plan,
Mm-hmm.
then they're purchasing it at a 40% reduction in cost. And if there's nothing in the, or there's no way to, maybe we're to the point now where we just don't even need to make it a requirement if there's nothing we can use to hold it to them.
And, yeah, I
So
don't know.
maybe that's a
So-
conversation we should have, and maybe not tonight, but
So to be clear, we didn't ever fix that?
There's no way to go back on that.
No, not on those lots, but on the others.
The others have all been built on.
Right, but that policy was there for the other ones. We just missed these 3?
I don't believe that it was an actual
But it was
verbiage.
all,
That's my
it was
question.
all
I don't
just good
believe-
faith policy.
Your
or-
good
Yeah, it was
faith
all verbal
policies.
agreement.
It was good faith agreement,
Yeah.
it was never actually in the, sale script or whatever, in the sale.
So back to your point about enforcement, there's no mechanism.
How can we enforce it?
But there's no reason going forward you can't put that language into one.
Yeah.
I mean, development
Right.
agreements,
That's my point.
Yeah.
What's past is past, we're not gonna fix that now.
So we may be sitting and.
But are we even to the point where we necessarily need to have that language? I mean, if somebody wanted to come in and buy the remaining 10 lots, even if they weren't gonna necessarily build on them, I mean, just to get them off the tax roll,
I know,
are we to
I
the
know.
point where we just like, if we can sell them,
But we have to be consistent.
right?
We
Oh, and we
really have
had,
to be
and we had
consistent.
been consistent to a point, but
I cannot have somebody come in and say, well, why did so-and-so get this and I didn't get this? And so that's where the 40% in the first year comes into play.
yeah.
Cause yeah, you're right, I'd sell them for whatever if I could just get them off the.
Yeah, I
ground.
mean,
Let's be a little crazy, let's hold off on the whatever comment.
I'm pretty much to the point where I'd give them to somebody else, to get them off our tax roll at some point. It's gonna come to the point where we're just not gonna wanna pay taxes on them anymore.
Well, and
If they're in somebody, I mean, the value of the lot's still there, if we're, at some point, to that point, I don't know what that point is, but I don't know what it's costing the EDA annually for taxes. Is it a
I
couple
wanna say
$1,000s?
last year it was about six or 7,000. I don't wanna be quoted on that, I will get you the exact figures for next council meeting, but it's up there, and like, back to us discussing this $5,000 in regards to marketing, I mean, anything helps, I mean, if we can sell one lot, we're that's
So
paid for itself.
maybe another talking point to have is that in the general fund budget,
Mhm.
is there an EDA line item?
Mm-mm. It has not been
And there
budgeted.
never has been?
It may have been budgeted a long time ago, but I have not budgeted since I have been in my position, cause there hasn't been really that extra money to put in there, and so that's where the sale of lots were so important to me, because I needed to get that revenue back into that account, and so the sale of lots, we were down to less than $10,000 in the EDA fund at one point. And once we sold the lots, then we got up to,
But now that we're gonna have, you know, the fixed cost of paying CETA to have Celia's services, and if we're gonna have any other,
okay, so let's go back to that. CETA, or her costs are actually have already been budgeted in that assistance,
I know, but should they be in an EDA line item?
in which we could actually, I mean, it's basically me just moving it over to
Right.
the EDA, if that's what you guys really want.
Well, I'm just wondering if we should do that and then, you know, have enough margin there that we could, without coming to council necessarily, if it's a sub $10,000 expense, we'd be able to pay it out of that line item for EDA needs. You know what I mean? Instead of, if it was actually a line item budget.
Oh, so you're saying that if it was line item budget out of the general, that I would be able to approve the $5,000 marketing?
You'd just be able to do it.
Yeah.
As part of the EDA's bylaws, you're supposed to be sending a full budget to the city council every year, on an annual basis, and so, I mean,
But there's nothing really.
there's been nothing to.
budgeted.
But I'm saying, like, in the future, like, even if you have an EDA line item,
When
you need to adjust your bylaws if you're gonna.
When you start using your EDA the way you're supposed to be using your EDA, yes, I
Yeah.
agree.
Mhm.
There's supposed to be an actual breakdown, but I was just running at the fact that we're
Oh,
down to
I-
$10,000 and the only expense that's coming out of that is those taxes, and I gotta build it back up. So basically, the only expenses that you see coming out of the EDA are basically the taxes and just
The taxes.
generic,
But it will be the taxes, CETA services, and advertisement moving forward.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So maybe it's something we're gonna have to reapproach, maybe not even in this year's budget cycle, but in next
But-
year's budget cycle, something to think about.
I don't disagree with you.
Mhm. Going back to this proposal then, any questions on what it says we're gonna get from it? I mean, we have the full proposal, we're still working that out with Liz. The goal is to start this in December and then finish up in May, reevaluate, see where we're at. So that 5,000 covers her services and what we get through May. Any thoughts, questions, concerns?
The funds are available. I would make a motion we approve that on the timeline that was just suggested by Celia.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Do we wanna add that as a administrative item then,
As, what?
for the council?
Council meeting?
Oh, yeah.
You can do it next one, it'll be fine. We don't need to pay him yet.
To approve the $5,000?
For
Yeah.
I mean,
advertising?
we're here, why not?
You might as well add it on to the
Yeah.
council agenda.
Yep.
Oh.
You wanna put it as,
Just number 3.
I know that.
Advertising.
I'm like
Like,
lost.
$5,000 expense for advertising E
Yeah.
EDA.
$5,000 marketing advertisement for EDA.
Okay.
Well, I probably make it specific to Riverview Heights,
Mhm.
so,
Yeah.
so that it's in the minutes what it's for.
Yeah.
Or get that sign fixed up there before you shoot any ads.
They did some aerial
The
footage
signs
already.
in the
Oh.
back, I don't know, after
So
getting our
different.
sign quotes for our front sign, I don't know if we can afford it.
I haven't sent you a picture of that yet.
I'll get my paintbrush.
Yeah, you said
What's
you were gonna
that?
do that right away.
I'll send you a picture of that one.
Okay,
Mhm.
I think we just pour it and do it.
okay.
I-
It's less than
I think the-
20,000.
I think arts and crafts can handle it.
Oh,
I
Jesus.
don't know, arts and crafts are really upset at me right now,
Are they?
so I don't think we can.
Okay.
Okay, going to the next part on that same page, incentives. You guys already talked about it a little bit, that 40% off the listed price for builds. We've primarily advertised for developers. I've brought forward some other incentives that kind of go towards developers or private builders. So I've got 1 year free of golf, 1 year free of family swim pass, 1 year free of cable television, not that anybody watches that, a city loan, 2 to 5 year tax abatements, no fees for water or electrical hookup, free lots even in the future. I would hold off on that until after the marketing if you saw it was still needed, but that's some ideas, as well as what we talked about with the deeding the lot to a developer and having them pay out later.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't be afraid to entertain all options, you know, especially once maybe give the advertising one construction season and see what we're sitting on, but originally there was, what is there up there, 36, 38 lots, something like that?
Originally or
Yeah.
Originally.
leftover now?
Originally
You got the
about
map
36.
in front of you, or you
No, I
should
do
be able
not.
to see it?
Yeah,
So right now we're on kind of a
the last third.
3/4 of a lot a year type sales program. Where we'll, to get rid of 10 in 1 year might be tough, but I mean, if we're seeing some traction, but it's gonna be a hard market to see traction in too.
But
As
I
far as
also-
design home,
I don't wanna sit still.
right,
And I kinda told
Mhm.
Celia this, I know that we're going into a bad economy,
Mhm.
but I also do realize that we cannot sit still.
oh, I realize that too. The other thing is, I have no problem if we wanna reach out to, you know, outside developers that no longer, you know, that aren't necessarily grounded in the community.
Mm-hmm.
If it's kinda like Design Home was from the wall, I mean, they've done a lot of good up there, but if there's other people that would be willing to come in and build and market,
Mm-hmm.
you know, not just the people that we're currently dealing with, I think it would be.
Mhm. And so Liz's proposal does have some like targeted advertising to developers outside of the area. I think we picked major cities, I think within 25 miles. There was a couple different conversations about that, as well as for private builders. I said we should talk to Mankato, we should talk to Sioux Falls, because those are people who maybe want to go smaller and have the funds to be available to do that. And so we're not just looking right here. And I've had some conversations with Design Home Center about the lot they have that they haven't sold yet. That conversation that was brought up was potentially us marketing for them that house is available because they've had trouble selling it. And that's kind of been their holdup, they said, about going after new lots. So I'd like to see that as another incentive personally.
But we kinda drew a circle, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
like Sioux Falls, St. Cloud,
Mm-hmm.
Rochester,
Mm-hmm.
down to Iowa. Kinda use those perimeters for our marketing push.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that goes back to, obviously, online marketing. If you saw any of the campground marketing, you kinda understand
Yep.
where we were going.
I guess, is there any of these incentives that you think we should not entertain at all? I know we talked about tax abatement, shying away from that, so I'd probably take that off based on what you just said. I've also got on here a city loan, that could potentially go to that down payment assistance fund, what we have in 46, could become a city loan for this.
Yeah, I mean, the tax abatement might be a little,
Excessive.
Yeah.
well, a little more of a last resort in my mind, but
Mhm.
everything else I think should be on the table as far as trying to push that through, and trying to get those last 10 sold.
So-
The concerning part, and I don't know if anybody's driven through that area recently, but
The infrastructure and the road,
right, is, I mean,
it's 20 years.
it's already showing some age. It's gonna be a tougher and tougher sell moving forward because the streets and everything in that neighborhood is no longer new. You know, it isn't like you're driving on fresh pavement when you drive in
Well,
there.
wait a second here, these lots have no assessments on them.
No, I know.
So you gotta look at it that way
And
too.
that's definitely one of the things that should be
Emphasized, because you,
upfront and very, that there's no hidden cost.
you go to New Ulm or anywhere else, you're looking at an $80,000 lot that size.
Yes, well, for instance, some of the newer subdivisions in New Ulm, a lot that size would definitely be 50 to 60,000 plus
Assessments.
$20,000 or $30,000 in assessments. So, there is value there for sure, and I think
But-
if that value is marketed, but they have to see successful return from other homes in the area, and I think that is, part of the challenge too is you either have to recruit somebody that wants to build up there and show them the, incentive, or especially on a spec level. I mean, on a spec level, you're talking about definitely savings, a lot of upfront money, hidden cost money, but you're also have to be able to say these, $305,000 to $365,000 houses are moving yet, and I just don't know if that's gonna be the easiest part.
But like I said, I know that we're going into a bad, or not such a good economy, but I don't think we should sit still.
Well, and I don't even know if it's the economy as much as it is just homeowner interest rates and builders' interest rates right now are, to the point where it's gonna become harder and harder to market.
Well, and supplies are not getting any cheaper right now either.
No, but between inflation and the interest, it's gonna be, but, other reports say that the housing market is still fairly strong, especially in Minnesota, so, I think the faster we can act, the better off we'll be.
So what I would do then, based on what you guys just stated, is I would have these, the vision is to have this webpage where developers can say, I'd like to get more information about these lots, and at that point then I could send them some of those incentives. And so maybe we'll have in future discussions at maybe November or December about which specific ones, which ones I'm able to get.
The other incentives that you mentioned, I guess for the couple, what's up there right now, for new construction that's unoccupied, two?
Just one.
Just
Just one.
So maybe you could reach out to Design Home and we could maybe, they could offer it as part of their sales promotion if they wanted to, where they're giving away golf course membership and swim passes or whatever for the first year to a new homeowner.
Yeah, I think,
Do I need an approval on that?
sure.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I just think since we're
Yeah.
giving that away, I would like that noted in the minutes.
You could definitely offer the same to beach companies on their,
Well, do we wanna get something put together and then come back and?
maybe,
Yeah.
Okay, like a final list of what
Yeah.
we want
Yes.
to look like, okay. Okay, I will do that. Alright, to the 146, so we had talked about on previous discussions about that down payment assistance program, how it was not structured well. And so I went back to figure out some of the restrictions. I think literally the day after our board meeting, I got a confirmation from Deed that we could use it as long as it was used for any use eligible under CDBG, which is Community Development Block Grant from HUD. And so that has a lot of different variations. If you want to look at it yourself, you're welcome to. If you want me to talk to you through it, you're welcome to. Basically anything with housing for low income, moderate income. But what I did is I redid our down payment assistance program. I'd like to bring your attention specifically to the income limits. I based this on HUD guidelines, and I felt this was a much more appropriate level versus our sliding scale income interest rate use. And so basically if anybody falls under these household size income limits, household size means all the individuals living there, not just the people who are 18 plus. Yeah, and these are 10-year loans at a 0% interest rate, which is not what we used previously. We had interest rates from 1 to 8%.
And they were based on your income bracket.
And it was based on reviewing it every 3 years, which I felt was an administrative annoyance that didn't really need to be there.
Yeah.
So, my question would be is for the, what is there?
How much cash on hand, is that what you're looking for, or what?
No, the 10 people that have current loans, is there gonna be anything for them as far as what we can do for possible refinance, or?
I think that would be a board decision if you felt that you wanted to change their interest rate to 0%. I think that would be a decision you guys could come to make.
It would be what?
They could make that decision.
I'm not saying that, I mean, that would be great for everybody, but I'm just gonna say that's a lot of admin
That's good.
costs that you are gonna take on.
And the legal documents will have to be redrafted.
Yeah.
Okay.
However, can we go back to, you know, the income bracket in regards to the 0% financing? You said it was, would these people even?
I don't know. I don't know if they qualify for.
Yeah,
Under the new one, under this new program policy with existing,
you have to make under so much to even qualify.
so currently, what is that limitation? If I have it here in front of me somewhere.
For what?
The old limitations?
Oh, the new one.
The
The new
one.
one's in there.
Yeah. And so the top bracket we had in our previous policy had 65,000 plus. So you could tap out. I don't have it in this report, but almost all of the individuals in that loan make under that amount, make under 65.
Based on the applications that they gave you.
Yes, at the time.
At the date of the loan.
Right.
I can say under a handful would probably meet that requirement now.
Well, and maybe it's something we can cross that bridge if anybody has a position after the fact. You know, I don't know. I don't know if anybody will have an issue with it, but if anybody did, I guess I'd entertain it. But I can see what you're saying from an administrative standpoint, we're kind of a nightmare.
It's just you're redoing all of those 10 loans and
Right.
reestablishing them.
Well, we could set a fee on it too, though. I mean, it's no different than going to the bank and refinancing, there's a fee attached to it.
Can Celia and I put something together and hash out the details and bring it back to you guys?
Yeah.
It might be cleaner moving forward, I don't know what the remaining lifetime on these existing 10 loans is.
And I'm trying to look at that. I think they're about 7 years to 10-year ones. And the latest one is from 2021. So it would probably be late 28 or so, where it would end, 28 to 31. I don't think we want to wait until 2031 to start this new program.
And it might not make sense depending on, you know, the balance, the outstanding balance on most of these loans, it might not make sense from a.
That's kind of what I'm looking at,
Sure.
and that's why I'm like admin costs and
Yeah, by the time
attorney
that you.
costs and everything like that could add up to more than what their actual outstanding balance
Sure.
is.
Yeah.
But we will definitely look it over and bring it back to you guys' attention. So are you looking for approval on the new structure, or what are you looking for?
If there's any thoughts or concerns on what I brought forward for the revisions, I'd probably look for approval at the next one, especially considering we're gonna talk about, that piece right there. So, like I said, it's 10 years at a 0% interest rate, so they'd all be the same type of loan. That matches a lot of these other examples I gave you, one from New Ulm, which was
So-
the exact same.
Will that, which fund account is that Fund 46 then?
Yes, this is 146.
So that would actually open up that 207,000 for this program, for this new
Yes.
policy program?
Yes. Yeah, 207,819. Yeah.
And I think, depending, I guess, I don't know, is there a limitation on the amount as far as, is it a percentage of the down payment?
Yes, I believe I kept it at what it was. The loan cannot exceed 30% of the assessed. Loans will be provided up to a maximum of $9,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the maximum you had previously.
Is it 5? What?
Nine. The other piece I added in here was a debt to income ratio. That was just based on conversation with some bankers about safe lending.
Sure.
Especially since we do not have a loan review committee for these loans established.
Did Steve or whoever you were talking to have kind of an indication of what 9,000?
How far it would go?
Right.
9,000 is close to what other loans were. So these examples I gave you, up to 10,000, up to 5,000 in Renville County. 18,000 is from Minnesota Housing, but I mean they can still apply for both of those, or choose those
You're
instead.
asking like the dollar amount of a house?
If
Right.
9,000 covers, like, is a good amount. But, yeah, that's what he's asking. Would you like to see it increased? I don't
Well,
I
know.
don't know, what's the typical down payment of a house?
It's usually 5 to 9%, I think. You almost have to have, but I don't know what those policies are at most lenders now either.
That's 5% on 300.
That's what I'm kinda getting at.
10% is
That's
30,000.
15,000 is 5% off of 300,000.
And some of them had up to 25,000 in terms of the size that their programs had.
Just looking at the price houses are quite a bit more than, of course, what they used to be.
Oh, yeah.
And not that, you definitely wanna be able to afford, you don't wanna necessarily get somebody that can't afford the house they're looking at into their house because they have this loan program or whatever. If they can't afford it, they can't afford it, but I'm just thinking that it makes, it'd be fine for, most starter homes, but it's gonna be a tough sell for anything probably over 200,000, which is gonna be
Hard right now when you have certain houses that are overvalued.
well, especially
Yeah.
for new ones too. I mean, it's gonna be real tough to, but that's probably not necessarily the goal of this. But it would be nice to get, that 207,000.
Well, yeah, but it could go right along with heights that.
That's what I'm saying, but it's not really gonna be that, I don't know, from a bank standpoint, if it would really be beneficial in that type of time, in that type of situation anyway. Because of the fact that they either won't qualify from an income standpoint or.
Well, yeah, but who's gonna wanna, even if somebody wanted to build a house, even if they had the money, they're not gonna use their own money if they get a 0%.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I think it's gonna be beneficial all the way around. Who wouldn't, that's free money.
So that's back to the criteria. Does the criteria say an actual home that's already built or new construction?
Both. Provide loans for residential down payment assistance for home purchased or built within the city, within the limits.
But that's also what I'm getting at, if they have the money to build a $350,000 house, they're probably not gonna qualify for this program.
Oh, yeah.
Because their income limits.
They wanna get you there.
Are you looking to do it you're saying.
Well, I'm just looking to get
Mhm.
that money that isn't doing anybody any good out into the community, and if that means higher end or lower end homes, I guess I don't care. The bigger thing is just making sure that the applicant is not
Well said.
exceeding their means when they're doing it, for one, but also the fact that, you know, those means are maybe way different than they were 10 or 15 years ago is something that, you know, current lenders and maybe we need to have more of a conversation with what fits best and what are, you know, the homes we're really gonna be trying to target.
Well, Steve is on the EDA
He's on the business loan review.
committee.
And so
He's
we are,
not on the residential.
we don't have a loan review committee for residential right now. We could have one if you wanted it. Right now, the way we get the
Have
loan.
you met with him on this?
He was not, he directed me to someone, from St. James, but I spoke to them, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't do much with housing. The way we get these requests is they go to a bank originally for their loan, and then they are directed to us, with that uniform residential loan application, and other things like that. So in some ways, but I also said I added in that debt to income ratio, which can help protect and make sure that we give loans to people who can pay them rather than giving them loans they can't afford.
So maybe the real question to ask is, what type of loans is this policy, you know, as far as housing amounts and how much people are borrowing? Cause the other thing is, it's probably not a first time home buyer deal where you're gonna come in and have, say you have, you know, $80,000 in the bank, and you could put that towards the qualification of the loan, but you wanna use this program because of the fact that it's free money. It's just gonna be harder to qualify than maybe I think it should be. That's, and, you know, I see that number and I'm thinking, how do we get that out to people, fill these houses up, get new residents, get new, you know, people into the community, first time home buyers or whatever, kind of bridge that gap of people that are maybe, you know, starting out in their professional career or whatever and looking for a place where they can afford a home. And this program would be great for them, but what can they afford, and under those qualifications, what are we really talking about? Is it $120,000 houses? If that's the case, let's just make sure that,
We have those available for.
right,
to
we
get.
have those available, but they're probably not gonna disappear real fast because the number of
I don't think you're gonna see $120,000 house. I mean, we have a $100,000 house for sale in town, but, you know.
But that's what I
it's taken
mean.
at 60.
Right, but that's what I mean too, is those opportunities for those $160,000 houses in town are pretty few and far between too.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're looking for, me to get in contact with one of the lenders for housing to see what this program.
Do they not provide, when they refer somebody to you, do they not include that? When I say that, I mean what they think they could afford?
Well, I think what we're getting at is the people that can't afford the houses that are, you know, over that, say it's over that $150,000 threshold, they're not gonna qualify for this
No,
program.
I get that,
So it's
but-
not gonna be a referral anyway.
No, okay. Well, that won't be, but if they, so as part of the referral, an actual look into their ability to not overmarket, not overpay.
But the referral is also first home buyers.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so.
So how do you know that they've got enough to be able to make this happen?
The bank will tell them.
Yeah.
That's my question,
Yeah.
that's what I was asking, sorry.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be
Oh,
very,
yeah,
it's
you can do
gonna,
that.
it's gonna be very specific to homes that are probably under $150,000.
Oh, yeah, no, I know, but if she has to make a decision, does she have someone with expertise?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's saying, okay, this is what we can do, this is what we think you can do based on the financials they gave us, that's perfect.
But I guess what I'm getting at is, you're gonna see $9,000 disappear once a year out of an account that has $210,000 in it. So that's 21 years worth of, you know, that money just sitting there basically not getting used because of the fact that the circumstances of the policy don't allow for those. And it's partially because of, you know, all sorts of circumstances, but if there was a way to increase those limits, whether it's on the, income side or whether it's on the amount being borrowed or whatever, to better utilize that account, it might make sense to look at those and see what the sweet spot is. Does that make sense?
And so it sounds like you're saying the restrictions is in that income limits, or potentially, having a larger. I would say if their income is this level, but they want a larger amount, that sounds like a bad lending. But I'm not a banker.
Right, so they wouldn't qualify for that anyway.
But I can go back to, the bank and talk about these income limits. I will say our previous policy restricted the income to, two individuals, whoever, 18 plus, whoever's making money. This one, my household size number includes kids. So like if you have kids there, instead of being 2, you'd be 4. So that's 70,000 rather than 56,000. Changes it a little bit, but I see too, what you're saying of if you're a first time home buyer, you don't have kids yet, you're a couple looking for somewhere, this might restrict you.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't foresee that balance going down at all, and it's just gonna sit there because of the fact that there's either not enough houses on the market that are gonna, be a part of it, are gonna fall into the bracket where it's actually gonna work, or the people looking to make the loan are not qualified because of the fact that they're gonna make too much money. So then we're gonna be back to that same problem of, we have $210,000 sitting in an account that we can't give out because the policy and the circumstances of the residential housing in this town just don't allow for those loan applications. Maybe that won't be the case, but, I kinda watch the real estate market in this town weekly. There's just not that many
No.
houses that come up.
Cody's point, we're just.
Right,
Not in that bracket.
right, no.
No.
And if they do, a lot of times they get sold without,
Privately, and you don't even know.
without even going on the market.
Mhm.
So that would be my concern, is we're still gonna end up with $210,000 basically sitting there indefinitely without.
So, I have a dumb question then, can you use the money for anything else? Does it have to be a low income, or I don't know how you wanna phrase it, a first time home buyer? What else can we do with the money to get it back out in the community?
So that's the next page. So we can use it for a number of things, including rehabilitation. That is my primary focus. I guess I don't have the link there for you guys to see, so I'll pull it up on my phone. Rehabilitation, acquisition of property, demolition. All of these though are often tied to, they need to be low income, used for low income eventually,
And that's part of the rules that come down.
from the
from
federal
the-
restrictions.
Yep.
So we can use this money for, okay, so help me out here, scenario, somebody, do they have to be in a certain income bracket to come here to ask that I wanna put new windows in my house? Is that not what you're looking at, or you are looking at that?
So rehabilitation, yep,
Rehabilitate.
yep. So,
Well, and if the fund is gonna be funding multiple programs like that, maybe it's not as big a deal, but without knowing exactly. And it's not something that has to be decided tonight either, I mean, we can
No,
put this policy in.
We're just putting it all out on the table right now and
We
talking
can put these
about it.
policies in place, see how they work out and adjust from there too, but the thing is gonna be, it's disturbing to me to see, like, especially that account, and knowing that, like you said, the last loan given was in 2021, and there's 10 loans, in the last 10 years. So, unless there's another revenue, another way to get that revenue out into the community, get that funding out in the community, it's kind of disappointing to just kind of see it sitting there year after year. And
So on this rehabilitation home examples, you have one from Pioneer Bank, the MHFA fix-up
yes,
fund.
so Minnesota
How
Housing.
come that's not available to Medelia residents?
It is available to Medelia residents,
Oh, shoot. Okay, my bad.
yes. I just wanted to make sure you knew it was available to
I
anybody
read that
else.
like 3 times, I'm like.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I also brought up, the Plymouth Home Rehabilitation Program. They have 0% interest deferred up to 40K. Medelia in our SCDP funds, that's Fund 39. We did 0% interest up to 32,000, restricted to single family homes. St. Cloud has done ones, rather than doing an installment, or a 0% deferred, it required a balloon payment at the end of their loan term. Anoka County at a 1%. USDA has up to 40K 1%. They have grants that are up to 10K. And so, when you talk about that 200,000, right? Say we used Fund 45 to do exactly what we did in 2015. That's a little under, what's 200,000 divided by 30?
Well, 10% is 20,000, so it'd be
75.
Yeah, and so that's how many homes you could potentially serve with that. And rehabilitation has been brought up before. These could also be loans that got forgiven and they never actually had to repay them, which is the structure we've done previously. And so, if you felt that a down payment assistance isn't really helpful, I think that could be a potential.
Well, I mean, I definitely think the down payment assistance is gonna be helpful in certain situations. But the funds sitting there is the bigger issue to me, is where let's see what we can use them for and let's get them out there, I guess.
Yeah,
And
and so.
whether that is rehabilitation or whatever.
Is there, and so I meant to pull up the guidance. Is rehabilitation something we wanna keep doing? I mean, you did it in 2015, you also did it back in the late 90s as well, which means nothing to you, but, you've done it before.
But the rehabilitation was also a small cities development program, which also, again, this fund is a small cities development program, but now it came back in. And so do you want to do a forgivable one after they live there for 10 years, or do you want it to be repaid at a low interest rate so you can keep on generating it? There's all different, because it's open now.
Yeah, it's whether you wanna keep these funds, right? So that SCDP, you have it structured as being a deferred 0%. It's forgiven after 10 years, but you could.
So, if we know the use from, for instance, from the first time home buyers, portion is probably never gonna exceed 50,000, we can open up the 160,000 towards rehabilitation and kind of divide the funds so that it's, that way there's hopefully something there for first time home buyers also, but you don't wanna necessarily deplete the fund completely because of the fact that both policies are in place, but.
Or do you wanna do it deferred? What I found out in the last 5 years is the deferred after 10 years, these people feel like they're locked in. They feel like they can't ever sell their house because they have $30,000 that they gotta repay if they sell it in less than 10 years. And you know how the housing market has been. I'm just gonna say it's not very user friendly for some reason.
Yeah, it wouldn't have to be deferred in my mind. I mean, the fact of the matter is, people, the whole point of the process is to kind of move through, hopefully, that house, to get somebody into a new house, maybe as an upgrade or whatever, and, have a marketable house that's in that middle range or whatever too. So I guess if it's deterring movement in the real estate market, it's probably not necessarily good either.
Yeah, when they had to pay back that $30,000.
Right, it was a
lot of
hindrance
money.
from them to move on to a different, possibly a better house or a bigger house or whatever.
Or we have individuals an ailing individual, a mother that's ailing, and they're like, well, we can't even do anything with it because now if she passes away, we can't do whatever, and because that's, what is there, 5 years left?
The one thing with that, so maybe this is beyond what this is for, but in certain situations, investing $30,000 or $40,000 into a piece of real estate that doesn't necessarily justify a $30,000 investment, where it's not necessarily on us, but if they're never gonna recoup that cost in sale, you know, maybe that's something where we need to.
At this point, we can adjust what's been already written in
Right,
the
no, I
last small
get that,
cities
but I'm saying
development
moving
program.
forward,
So that's why I'm bringing it up, because I want you to understand that if you put those guidelines into play, there's pros and cons either
Yeah.
way, so, I just wanna put that out there. Just seeing what I have with the last small cities development program, and then having those funds tied up.
some of those stipulations were due to the fact wasn't have matching funds on a lot of that.
Yeah, that's a, but now.
SCDP one is matching.
Okay.
But going into this one, now
It's a
this
new
one is
program.
open, you can create your own criteria in regards to loaning this out.
Okay, so maybe we need more research as to how the
Mhm.
mechanics of that would work best for the community.
Yep,
I will say another example of one is to do it forgiven. You forgive each year. So if they move out early,
Percentage.
it's a smaller portion.
yep,
That's a pretty typical structure.
that would be very beneficial.
Yeah, that
Because I don't want you to
Yeah.
say like, they have no restrictions, they get 30,000, they move out the next year. I think that's a poor use of public dollars. But if you do forgiven annually, you get this much forgiven up to the 10 years and then it's forgiven in full or something.
Yeah.
The other thing I brought up is that the one you did in 2015 was restricted to single family homes. We've had discussions about mobile homes being part of the housing stock. If you wanted to use that for rehabilitation as well, that could be another avenue. I also put in multifamily housing rehabilitation uses, and so.
And that might be one of the things where first-time home buyers, on that side, are mobile homes disqualified from that first-time home buyer's application?
Don't.
Because that's a market that probably
Mhm.
would be obtainable for a lot of first-time home buyers, and these loans might make sense if you're looking at the mobile home market. And I know that we have multiple vacancies within our mobile home district, so maybe that's a question of the use.
Have you met with, up there?
Yes. Yes, I had talked to them. We talked a lot about kind of the rehabilitation needs and also bringing in new mobile homes as well. And so that's still a discussion for future boards. I don't have anything in here that says no mobile homes. It's not restricted to not be mobile homes. If you'd like the language to specifically include them, I'm happy
I
to.
know the,
You definitely do.
I know from a federal government standpoint, they're reworking a lot of their loan programs to include mobile homes now as well, so
Mhm.
for your typical, you know,
Yeah.
Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae.
Yeah, and so I think I would just put in the language then so that people know that homes does include mobile homes.
Okay.
But yes, going back to the suggested design, if you have thoughts, I know we're getting to workshop time, if you have thoughts about how you want that structured, it sounds like the forgiven annually sounds like something you guys would like.
I definitely agree with that.
If there's any other thoughts, feel free. I have it up to 25K. It's about what the other programs have been, other versions, and the MHFA, they can also apply to those as well as this one. The MHFA does not include mobile homes though, so ours would be able to help those populations that those can.
So right now, Fund 39 and Fund 46, are they both fairly open?
So Fund 39 has that structure of being 100% deferred over whatever number of years.
That's locked into that type of program?
Unless I ask them, and I can ask them. You guys had also brought up potentially asking them to put that into our commercial Fund 40 instead, and so I
Yeah.
haven't decided what we're gonna do with it yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have any thoughts on that too, I guess I can take comments on whether you think I should move it, but no.
Well, I think the common thread of all these funds is
Use them.
let's get the money back into the economy, or, you know, back into the community if possible.
Mhm.
Whatever program's gonna work best for those situations is
Mhm.
probably the goal.
Okay. I will bring it back to discussion in November. I'll think more about what I think I should recommend to you all.
Thank you.
Alright, are we okay? I've got two more things. Is it okay if workshop starts late?
Yeah.
Okay, alright. Okay, 2024 goals. So I've got here my list of what we did in 2023. EDA structure, programmatic discovery, I've done all that. That's what all these restrictions are we've been talking about. I've been working on guidance for that so that in case I die or something happens, you all know what you have in your funds. Next is the business assistance policies. Awaiting your guys' approvals for those, but we just approved the first two, so it's good. Zoning code, I've had a number of, well, Chris has had a number of things come across her desk. I've started talking to her about it, seeing where some of the issues lie, and so that's one of my next big projects to work on. Marketing the Riverview Heights subdivision, as we just discussed, we're working on that. And annexation policy is also in progress. That was on my list of things to look at this week. And then I've been working on a community listening tour. Thank you, Michelle, for your lovely post, or your lovely article about it. And then I've been working with some entrepreneurs in the community and doing some business visits. And then finally, that personnel policies. And so that's just an overview of where I'm at with the 2023 goals going into 2024. I'll bring a work plan to you guys at our next board meeting, so I wanted to let you know what I thought the priorities should be just from my discussions and if you had any additional thoughts. So I've got here language barriers impacting resources for non-English speakers, so looking at doing either translation of our documents or making sure we have bilingual resources available. Additionally, that lack of available commercial space has been brought up in a number of my conversations. The rehabilitation needs, which we just discussed. Lodging, a number of individuals have spoken to me about needing improved lodging available in the community. And then finally, expanding that awareness of EDA resources. So if there's anything I touched on here, I'm gonna add in zoning, I'm gonna add in Riverview Heights because I'm not done with those. And I'll always be doing business assistance, but if there's another thing you think should be a priority in 2024, either bring it to the next board meeting or feel free to talk to me. Okay. And last, it's just my reports. Nothing really fun there. So we can end. I'm still gonna talk at the workshop, so I'm like, I need to sit for a second.